Alright, so today I kind of wanted to do another little discussion video about something that I've kind of noticed has been happening in the DVD community recently. And it's not really something super major, but it's just kind of an annoyance that I've started to notice is a lot more consistent with the games that I've been playing, both from Survivor and Killer POV. And it is the sudden influx of people just giving up and dcing before the match even really gets going. So the thing is, right, is that Dead by Daylight has always had this issue of people either giving up or people disconnecting from the matches. And we've gotten some fixes here and there, like we've gotten, survivors can't attempt on hook anymore to try and kill themselves early, or, we have like the abandoning systems, that way people can DC without getting penalized. And, we have some other stuff like, survivors being replaced with bots if they DC, stuff like that. But it just feels like recently there's just a huge influx of players, mostly on the Survivor POV. I don't really see this much on the killer side. But from the Survivor POV, there's a lot. I've noticed there's just a bigger influx of people that just disconnect, like before the match even really gets going. Like the match will start, you'll start, you let's say like you're playing like, decently strong killer, like, I'll play like Springtrap or something. I get into one chase, get a good axe, get a good grab on somebody, and manage to hook them. A hook very early on in the game as a killer is a very good thing, but, you're not even fully hooking them yet, and the survivor's already disconnected, and they're already replaced by a bot. And a lot of the times what happens is people see that this person DC'd, so then it's just kind of a waiting game of one by one of each single person DCing until you're left with 4 bots in your lobby. And I don't really understand it. Like the whole point, like the whole thing about it is just stupid, because it's like, if you're loading into this game, if you're willingly opening this game, loading into Survivor and hitting Q, and, readying up and stuff like that, you get into one chase, and then lose, and then you decide, oh, nope, that's it, can't play the game anymore. Like, are you fucking kidding? And a lot of the time, this also happens to people. A lot of survivors do this that are in like the top, like more higher, like more skilled players. I've noticed that like I'll play killer against some relatively higher tier survivors, like not like sweaty per se, but people that are actually good at Survivor. And I'll play, like I said, like Springtrap, Billy, killers like that, get one down, and then suddenly, like, that person DCs. So then I go, okay, so then I just kind of move on, go for the next person, down them, they also instantly DC. And then it's just, like I said, it's just a cycle of just one person DCs, and then it's just a waiting game on how long it's going to take before each person DCs. I don't really understand it, because again, it's like, you're willingly loading into this game, but you can't even take a single chase. Like, not even getting hooked, not even, like, seeing, like, what your teammates are doing. You're just giving up instantly. And I know that a lot of the times this will happen with, like, like, solo queue players, which, like, it's still stupid, but I guess, like, solo queue is, like, I do play a lot of solo queue Survivor, and I see the struggle of, like, like your teammates might not be that good, or like you might not be getting saved, or the killer just, or like there's a lot of different aspects with solo queue versus playing with teammates. But I've even noticed people that are playing in like duos or squads will also just DC because they just don't want to play the game. And it's like, why load in the first place? Like, again, you go through all this of just trying to load into the game, but then you can't even get through one chase. And most of the time too, what happens is that it's like the survivor bot ends up being better than the actual player. Like the survivor bot will actually end up like winning more chases, doing more gens, saving the teammates. So it's like it just makes, like, to me it just feels like at some point survivors are just starting to get carried to these high lobbies, and then they start DCing because they start realizing what genuine DBD lobbies look like. And a lot of the time too, a lot of people are just DCing not even because they go down, but like just because of a killer they go against. Like, people will find out like the type of your killer you're playing against, and not even like 5 seconds into the game it's an instant DC. Like, people will, and like, to a certain extent, I get it. Some killers are really annoying to play against. Like, nobody wants to play against a skull merchant or a ghoul or, any of these stupid or a Krasu. Like, nobody really wants to play against these killers right now. but you can't even go out of your way to just finish the game. Like, you don't even have to put in as much effort. Just like do a gen and like maybe save your teammates. You don't need to put in like that much effort if you really don't want to play the game. But I still think it would be better to do that than just, than just fucking leave the game instantly. And to a certain extent, I also kind of get it, because at this point in the game, the DC penalty basically means fucking nothing, because you can DC the first like 3 or 4 times before you start facing a penalty. So you can like DC for like 4 games in a row and not face like any major penalties. So people think, oh, that just gives me the right to DC. Well, it doesn't fucking matter if there's a DC penalty or not. You shouldn't be just disconnecting from the lobby, because then that's how we have all these problems with people just not wanting to play the game, even if it's a fun game, even if you're playing like a fun killer, or you're just trying to goof around as killer, like trying a new build, or trying a killer you've never played before. People are just going to start leaving, and then you're not going to be able to properly learn these killers. So then people are going to start getting more upset because they can't understand these killers because they don't have proper people to play against. And it really just doesn't make any sense to me that people will, like I said, they willingly open this game, play Survivor, ready up, load into a match with other people, load into the game, start playing the game, but then the moment they go down once, it's over. Like they refuse to play the game. And I don't want to, and like I just don't want to hear anything about people saying like, oh, but this killer is playing like this, or this killer's doing this. If the killer is playing a certain way that you don't like, I hate to say it, but if a killer's playing in a way you don't like, you just get better at it. Or if you're playing against a killer that you don't like playing against, that's the entire point, is to just learn how to play against them so they're not as much of a problem, so that way you're not constantly dcing against this killer. Like, yeah, I don't like playing against the ghoul. I really don't. I hate the ghoul. But I'm not gonna get to the point where the moment I hear the terror radius and hear that it's a ghoul, I'm DCing instantly. No, because I still want to learn how to play against them, because maybe, over time I can start learning how to play against them. And I mean, I kind of have. I still don't like playing against them. But again, it's like, you shouldn't just be DCing at the start of the game nonetheless. Like, if it's at the end of the game and the killer's kind of like slugging, or, whatever, and you can abandon, that's different. But I'm talking like strictly like the game starts, and not even within the first like 5 minutes you already have like 1 or 2 people disconnected from the game. And it's just stupid to me, because again, it's like, how are you gonna learn to play against other killers in this game if you're just leaving all the time? Like, there's a lot of people in this community that seem like that act like they only want to play against, like, the fun codes. Like, they only want to play against Billies, and they only want to play against Leatherface, and they want to just, like, fuck around and bully these people. And it's like, that's fine. I get that, because it's fun to go against a killer that's just fucking around, or it's fun to go against, like, a killer that's actually fun to play against, like Billy or something like that. But again, it's like, you're never gonna learn how to play against these stronger killers like Nurse, Blight, Wesker, stuff like you're never gonna learn how to play against these killers if you're just constantly leaving. And I understand that there's some people that are just ignorant to that. Like, there's just people that no matter how much you tell them, they're just gonna be ignorant. They're never gonna want to learn how to play against these killers, and they're just gonna DC no matter what. And to me, those people are just kind of a lost cause. Like, it sucks to suck. Like, if you can't learn to play against this killer, then you probably shouldn't be really playing much Survivor on DBD, because, like, if you're literally DCing against a good handful of the killers, then clearly something's wrong, because it just means that you're not willing to learn. And I just think that, like, it makes so much more sense that if people just simply stick the match out, or, because I've even had situations where somebody will DC at the start of the game, but then me and the Survivor team, like the rest of my teammates, will have a comeback and get to the end game and actually get some people to escape, like maybe like 1 or 2 people. So it's like, if we had that extra person that like actually was able to play the game, I'm sure that we could have figured something out to actually win the game. But no, it's the fact that people just don't even want to try anymore. Like, Survivor players nowadays, and like, it's rare that I'll see this, but some killer players are like that too, and I get it. Like, some killers, they don't want to play against certain survivors, they want to play on certain maps. That's a whole different conversation. But strictly for I'm talking about survivors, it's the fact that people just simply don't want to try anymore. It's like, the moment the game, the second they go down and they think the game's not going to be in their favor, they just give up. And whether that person thinks they're a good survivor or not, it still is just not a good thing to just abandon your teammates and then expect your teammates to just be able to figure everything out. Because like I said, even though bots can be pretty good substitutes for actual players, there is a lot of times too where like the bot is just it's a bot. Like they're not gonna be perfect all the time. Like you'll get like one good match where a bot teammate actually helps you, but then the rest of the time, you know, it's kind of just whatever. So I really think that like if people just like if you don't want to play against a certain killer, that sucks. I think you just need to learn the killer and just stop complaining about the killer. Like if you want to get good against them, just learn to play against them instead of just dcing instantly, or like, you know, it's literally just a matter of you just need to learn and just stop giving up. Because like I said, when we have people that are giving up, not only are survivor players not learning how to play against the killer properly, but the killer's not even learning how to play that killer properly because they don't have proper survivors to play against. Because with bots you can kind of just start determining all their moves that they're gonna make. When you're playing against actual players, you know, you don't know how that person's gonna play, you don't know how they're gonna loop, so it actually does take some skill to go against them. But no, when people just start giving up, people don't want to try, and then that just, like I said, that just starts becoming a problem of people aren't learning how to play against the killer, people aren't learning how to play as the killer because nobody wants to play the game. And it's just, it makes no sense that people will literally load into this game willingly expecting, you know, for some reason just expecting, like, you know, to run the killer for like 20 generators, but then they go down once. Like, even if they have a good chase, if they go down once, some of these people will just start giving up because they just, I don't even know. It's literally one of those where it's like, I can't determine how these people are going to play because I don't really know these types of players, but just from my experience, it's like, even if they have a good chase, a lot of the time they'll still just give up just because they don't want to play. Or like, you know, if the killer genuinely outplays them, they get super salty and then just instantly disconnect. And, you know, because there's no major DC penalties right now, people aren't caring. They're like, oh, well, I could just DC and then just queue next. But then, you know, what happens when you queue next and then you get like the same killer, or you get somebody playing in the same way? You're just gonna DC again, and then it's just a never-ending cycle. And I don't know, I just wanted to make this video specifically to talk about that, because I'm just like, I think if you're gonna play Survivor, you need to learn how to play Survivor and stop just giving up against every single killer you don't want to play against. Yes, there's killers in this game that nobody wants to play against, and I totally understand that, because I don't want to play against half of the killers in this game either. But I still think it makes sense to try and learn and try and play the game, because that's how you get better. That's how you get to the point where even though it's a killer you don't want to play against, you can play against them, and you can play against them pretty efficiently. So I think it's just a matter of people need to just stop giving up before the match even really gets started, to just actually learn how to play the game and actually learn how to play against the killer. Because if survivors learn how to play against the killer, then the killer also gets to learn how to play as that killer and be more efficient, and then everybody's happy at the end of the day, because survivors know how to loop the killer, and then the killer knows how to play the killer more efficiently. It's just better for everybody if people just stop giving up at the start of the game. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to say today for this week. Is yeah, I think Survivor players need to just stop being crybabies and stop just giving up before the match even starts, because it really makes no sense to open this game just to disconnect immediately. So you can check out my other DBD videos and stuff if you want, and yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next one.